Okay, so let's finish this up. I'm going to take the proxy half here. May as well delete this layer. Blow it away. And I'm going to mirror the geo. First thing though, before I do that, is I'm just going to get rid of all of these faces here in the center and whatnot. So let's just grab these faces, and I'm just double clicking and it's selecting the row, and I can hit delete, and then I can get rid of these as well. So I'm just deleting them. Good, so I'm left with an open border around the neck, and I've gotten rid of those faces in the middle from the proxy. So let's just object mode, mesh, and I want to mirror the geometry. Again, I'm worried about my merge threshold, but it looks like it's fine, so that's good. And got some shaping issues. Oh, so I added an extra loop that I didn't do in any of the videos here to run right down the middle of the ear. And I think other than that, I didn't do any real changes. I just added the stuff that I had added previously and tweaked it. What I am going to do here, I think, is I might just get rid of some of these edge loops, so I don't really need let's leave those ones. Yeah, no, I'm not going to get rid of any edge loops this time. I did this once before, but Maya crashed, so now I'm doing it again. But I think I'm good. So let's just do a bit of cleanup here. So F8. I'm going to delete the history because I did this poly mirror and I've learned my lesson, so I'm going to save the file, so Control S, and I'm going to do that every few seconds now. So what all I want to do is just maybe clean the mesh up a little bit, maybe add a little bit of shaping. I don't like the way the neck's coming out of the back of his head and things like that. So let's just do a little bit of cleanup. Alright, so I'm going to use and we're going to attempt anyways to use the new sculpting brushes. I'm not sure that I'm that happy with them, but if you go to Mesh Tools, there's Sculpting Tools, and I'm going to go for Relax for right now. And in the options, we can set brush size. You can see the size is 25 Maya units, which is huge. You can see it fills the entire screen. If you can't see that black line, then just drag the slider down so that it's smaller. Once you can see it, you can hold down B, press and hold, and then left mouse click and drag left and right, and you can size the brush interactively so that it fits whatever shape model you want. And let me just zoom in here a bit more. So yeah, so B will bring it down. Strength is set to 15, I guess, and I'm just going to put wireframe unshaded on, and I'm just going to start to kind of click around here. And I don't see much happening, so maybe I'll turn the strength up. Oh, I still don't see much happening, so why is there nothing happening? Well, that's never a good sign. Maybe let's try it again. So make sure you have the geometry selected, Mesh Tools, Sculpt, Relax, Options. There we go. So now maybe the strength is too much, so I don't want to do too much. And you can see when I click drag through, say, the back of the head here, which is, it's just going to be relaxing. It shouldn't be losing any of the volume. And again, I'm not too concerned about mirroring. Like, we could set this to mirror to the other side or whatever, but we can just delete half the head and clean it up that way. Or we should be able to go into yeah, I don't even know, not into fall off. Let me tear this off. This is a new tool for 2016. Yeah, that's not it. Stylus, brush size, brush strength, stamp, flipping, continuous. That doesn't sound right either. Display. I don't even know how to set up the mirroring on this. There should be a way to do it, but anyway. Oh, I closed the option box, so I need to get that back so that I can adjust the strength on this as I work on it. And we can make the brush a bit smaller and kind of work in here. So this is just a lot easier than excuse me, trying to move all these around, even with the edge slide and all that kind of stuff. So not too bad. Maybe just a click through here, gentle. Maybe make the brush a bit smaller. I don't want to grab anything that clickety clickety click, just to do a bit of cleanup here. So I think that's helping. Not too bad. And then if I did want to kind of pull a little bit, so if I hit 3 and check, and if I did want to do a bit of shaping, we could switch to a different brush. So what I'll do is I'll go back to 1. I'm going to save the file in case it crashes on me, and we can go back to the sculpt tools and we can try the sculpt tool. And what the sculpt tool is going to do is it's similar. We've got a brush, got a strength, and then you've got a direction. So you can do an average normal, vertex normal, forward. So if I do say vertex normal, it's a little bit like when you're on component. So the strength is obviously too high there, so undo. That strength can come down to something just over 1, and then you can see you can just sort of grow the verts out. So if you did want to add a little bit of roundness to something, sometimes this can help. It's a bit easier with a brush. I think what I find is his chin is not quite right, so if we look in the front view, his chin should really kind of come in. It's really quite wide still. So what I'll do here is I'm going to set the direction to be X. Oh, there's the mirror right there. What am I, an idiot? So there we've got World X mirror, and I've set the direction to be X, and when I click you can see it's moving out, which I don't want to do. I want to push it in. So if you hold down Control, it'll move it in the opposite direction. So if I go Control click, you can see it's going to start to push those in. And it's going to be doing it on the x-axis, so I might be losing a bit of volume in that, like shape-wise, right? It's going to start to flatten things, but it'll start to push those in a bit, and that might get his chin. There we go. That's getting a bit better than what it was, and yeah, it's saving me a little bit of time just because I don't have to push and pull so many verts. But so remember, Control click, it'll move in the opposite. If you just click, it'll expand in the positive direction. So Control click does the negative axis, and then maybe I'll switch it to vertex normal and mirrors off for now, and then I can just hold down Control and push that up slightly, and it's gonna kind of gunk up the mesh a little bit. So then that's when I'm going to close this, and I think it's Control 3 is the hotkey. It doesn't want to come up. So Mesh Tools, Sculpt, Control 3, and then I can get this relax again, and then let's do World X, and let's just see what happens. So when I click on this, right, it's going to be averaging out his verts again. And at some point we can keep doing this and keep doing this and keep doing this, but I think this looks about right for what we want. I remember not being super happy with the neck, but I think we're okay now. The brush has a hard time on border edges, so can't expect too much. I think the last thing is to just give us some thickness on the lips. So let's just kind of give this a little tweak out. And just subtly get this, there we go. Middle of his nose here, just kind of with a really limited strength, just trying to just tweak this out some more. Alright, good enough. Cool, so let's close that off, hit Q to exit the tool, and save that file. And let's turn off the wireframe unshaded, see what we've got. So there's still maybe some work to do on the corners of the mouth and stuff, but I'm not gonna, and still a bit of work on the neck. I might want to round that a little bit, but yeah, I'm just trying to show you the tool. So overall you get the idea. It's looking sort of okay. Just his mouth is a bit open, so let's get that right now. I'm going to go up to edge, double click this border edge, and I'm just going to scale these lips closed so that they're almost virtually closed, and maybe we can just rotate that slightly because that looks like that's what it wants to do, and we could, you know, move things in and out if that's kind of what we want to get. You know, and then there's still some shaping here, like, yeah, maybe these should come out a bit further. Maybe these verts can go in. So there's still, you know, a bit of tweaking that we can do. In smooth mode. But you get the idea. And yeah. And then just let's tuck his lips back in. So I'm going to go to the one mode, save the file, because this is where I crashed last time. And if we fly into the head here, we'll come in through this direction. We can see there's the border edge, so I'm going to grab it. And actually, you know what? It's a bit easier. No, maybe it's not. So I'm going to extrude them. And so Control E. And I just want to sort of tuck it around, so I'm just going to pull it down or push it back in on the blue arrow there, just to give it some thickness, and maybe just hit R for scale, and we can just scale them away and up a bit. And I think there's just a vert here and here which is doing something weird, and I'll just pull those down. So what we did was we just we thinned the lips out, and we just tucked them back in just like we did with the eyes and everything else. So and what I'm going to do now is finish it by grabbing half the head again, deleting it. I'm going to have to grab the verts on the border edge now, because I know for sure after using that relax brush that the border edge isn't straight anymore. So I'm going to hold down X, I'm going to drag it out, drag it back, and yeah, that's squared off. So F8 a couple times, let's delete the history, let's mirror the geometry. So, and again, just check an area with a lot of detail. In this case, it's probably going to be the lips. I want to make sure I don't merge the lips together. And it looks like it's fine. So I've got this poly mirror. Let's delete the history again. Hit 3. And it does kind of open up again. That's because it's not the border edge anymore. So let's grab these. Let's go with 3. R for scale. Why don't they want to come together? Well, that edge. And then this edge over here, so shift double click. Decided to go the shortest distance. And 1, 2, nope, missed. 2, W for the move tool, and I'm just gonna make sure this is set to world space. It is. And let's just bring these together a little bit more. So again, when I hit 3 and then I go back to 1, there's going to be a bit of an overlap there, but I think that's alright. Let's just leave a little gap. And I think that's good. So there we have the final. The only thing we're missing, of course, is harden the edges, and this is a bit of hair, but you know. Now let's do it. So the hair, I'm just going to use NURBS. So I'm going to go into the side view. Maybe I'll just put the head geo in a display layer just for a minute and hide it. Save the file. And I'm going to draw this hair zigzag out. So I'm going to create a curve tool, CV curve tool. And I'm going to put 2 really close together here, 1 in the middle, and then 1, 2, 3, change in direction, 1 in the middle, 1, 2, 3, change in direction, 1 in the middle, 1, 2, 3, change in direction, 1 in the middle, 1, 2, 3, change in direction, 1 in the middle, etc. 2, 3, 1, and 1, 2, 3, and then let's see what we've got. Maybe let's do one more. So 1, 2, 3, 1, and then finish 1, 2 close together. Well, that really lost the form there. So enter, and I'm going to go back into perspective. I'm going to move this out of the way because it's going to be in the middle of the head. So there's the head, and if I put this kind of attached to his head, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this around his head now, even though it doesn't look great. So to do that, I'm going to use a bend deformer. So I'm going to switch from modeling menu set over here into rigging. I'm going to go to deform. I'm going to find something called a nonlinear deformer here, and then go to bend and just hit it. It's not going to be oriented properly, so let's rotate it in X so that it matches the orientation of the curve I just drew. And then over here in the channel box under bend, I'm going to give it a bit of curvature. So middle mouse drag, and that's going to bend it slightly. And I actually don't want it to bend in the front half here, so I'm going to take the, I don't know what it is, low bound, to make that 0. Yep, that works for me. So now it's just bending the back half here. And I'm going to get it to kind of warp as well by translating this. So if I pull this further away, or pushing it in, it's giving me a bit of a bend. And then you can just select the curve, delete the history, and that gets rid of the bend deformer. And I might be able to push this in slightly, maybe rotate it a bit. Needs to rotate out slightly. Translate forward a little bit. And there it is, and it's almost reached the back of his head, so maybe I'll just go to control vertex. So the trick here is to click in empty space, go to control vertex, and I'm just gonna grab these and just start to shift them over slightly. And these ones can come out of the head a little bit, so we're penetrating in slightly. Alright, and it's not the prettiest thing. Take a bit more time for this, but there we go. So F8. I'm going to take this, I'm going to delete the history on it. I'm going to freeze transformations. I am going to make sure that the pivot is in the middle. So I'm going to hit insert. I'm going to hold down X. I'm going to drag it over so the pivot is in the center of the world. Insert again. I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, and then I'm going to go to the scale X and make that -1, and that's going to give me the other side. And then what I can do is freeze transforms on this half, and it looks like I need to connect it with another loop there. I was kind of hoping they would touch each other. Okay, so hide the head and hide the eyes, and maybe here in the front view I'll hide the front reference. I'm going to get the curve tool, CV curve tool, and if I hold down, so let me just get rid of the grid as well. If I hold down C, that's snap to curve, and if I click, left mouse click and drag, it'll drop a point right on this curve here so that I can go there and then go up. 1, 2, 3, change in direction, 1 down, and then 1, and then C, click and drag for the second one, and hit enter. And that fills in the space. So now I have 3 curves. So I'm going to start to connect them. So the first curve, shift select the second curve. I mean, this is for Homer, right? So we're getting ahead of ourselves. You probably don't need any of this for your models, but just so you can see how it's done. And we will be going over this when we do our NURBS section after we do our self-portraits. So selecting those 2 curves, I'm going to go into, back to modeling, go into curve menu, and I want to attach. And in the options, I'm going to choose blend. I don't ever want to keep original, so I'm going to turn that off. And I'm not sure if this is going to turn out, so I'm going to hit apply instead of attach. And it does. It makes it round and averages it, so that's cool. So I like that. I'm going to delete the history, and then I'm going to shift select the next curve and hit apply again. And good. So it's all connected up. Delete the history again, close the window, and I have what is more or less a complete, if not ugly, Homer hair curve. Now I'm going to create a NURBS circle. I'm going to leave it exactly where it is. It's huge, so I'm going to hit R and scale that down, and then I'm going to shift select the path here, and I'm going to go to surfaces, and I'm going to do an extrude, and in the options for the extrude I want to make sure it's at path and component, so it's these 4 options on. And you know what, I might as well just output polygons immediately. So I'm going to hit the polygon output, and I'm going to choose control points, and I just want to see what that does. So again, I'm not sure if I'm going to be happy with that, so I'm going to hit apply. Yeah, and it's a little bit chunky, right? So that's the size, so let's make that smaller, and that looks way worse than I thought it was going to be. So let's undo. Let's take this circle, scale it down a bit more. Let's take this curve, go to the attribute editor, 0 to 60, so it's got 66 spans. I'm going to rebuild it so that it has a few more spans on it. So yeah, let's double them. So let's go 66, so let's try 120, 132, 66. So I'm going to go to curves, I'm going to go rebuild curve, and in the options I want 0 to number of spans, and I'm going to just set this to the number I want. So I believe 132 would double that. Rebuild. I really shouldn't see much difference, but if I go back and look at the verts, I have twice as many verts now. So let's try it again. So selecting the circle, shift selecting the curve, and doing a surfaces extrude. And let's look at the options. Surfaces extrude. Yeah, so polygons, and I want control points. And it looks like it's inside out. I don't know why it keeps doing that, and it's not particularly smooth, but if I hit 3, it should smooth out quite nicely. So I'm going to flip the surface, so mesh display, reverse, and it'll come out the right way. And it does look a little bit crinkly and whatnot, but for today that's good enough. So selecting the geometry, deleting the history, and then I can get rid of the two curves. So just selected them and deleted them, and I'm left with extruded surface, which is really let's do side hair geo, and let's bring back the head and the eyeballs. There we go. So we got some Homer hair going around there. It's not pretty. I would have taken a bit more time and done a better job, but now you can see what's going on. And then I'd have to fill in the base there. So to do that, I'm going to use what's called append to polygon. So mesh tools, append to polygon, and the way this works is you just click on the edges and follow the purple arrows going all the way around. Maya does the last one for you. Go to the other side, hit Y, do the same thing, follow the purple arrows. Gotta click on every edge in sequence except for the last one, enter. I'm gonna take this face, I'm gonna take this face, I'm gonna do an extrude, so let's Control E, and I'm gonna scale that in, and then maybe, yeah, that's probably good enough. And really I should cut that up so that it's quads, but I'll live with it. Delete the history. And then we know we can make it a color or whatever we want. And then for the top hair, he's got two little top hairs. That to me looks like a NURBS circle. So create NURBS primitives circle. Rotate that circle 90 degrees in X so that it's facing forward. I'm gonna hit W and move it up. Boop, there it is, and make it a bit bigger. And maybe a bit wider and a bit thinner, and drag it down. Maybe a bit higher actually. There we go. So there's one. Rotate it slightly, I guess. Control D, duplicate. And there's the second one. We did want to match it in the view a little bit better. So there we go. There's one, there's two. And what's it look like in the front view? Yeah, pretty close. So I actually only don't need the whole curve. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to right mouse click and go up to edit point. Select that edit point, shift select the one on the other side, and then go to curves and say detach. And then do the same on the front one. So edit point, and I'll x-ray just so I can see where it is. So there's one. There's the other one. Do the detach, curves detach. And I don't need the bottom two, so select those ones, delete them. Select the two tops, delete the history, freeze the transformations, create another NURBS circle, NURBS primitive circle, and make it really quite small. Let's go 0.25, and what we do is shift select surfaces extrude, and again set to control points, so we let her go, select this one, oh sorry, the there's that circle, this curve, you can use G, and then what I'll do is to add more points here, I'll just turn off my surface select for a minute, grab these two curves, go to curves, go rebuild, options, 132 is too much, let's go with 32, and then hit rebuild and they'll get smoother. So you can see there much more geometry. Again, take my two hairs, and they might be a bit thick, so let's grab the circle and maybe bring that down to 0.125. There you go, they're a little bit thinner now. And let's delete the history on these two pieces of geometry. And freeze the transformations, and then let's get the two curves and blow them away. So now I'm left with reversing these. So mesh display, reverse, delete the history again, and there we have sort of my select them, center the pivot. And we have my Homer hair, so maybe they need to rotate a bit more. There we go. So in the outliner, I just want to make sure, you know, everything's cleaned up. So there's the head geo. I'm going to unparent that, Shift P. I don't need this proxy group anymore, so delete. This NURB circle is nothing, so delete that. So then I have top hair 01 geo. And or top hair front, I guess. It doesn't matter. Top hair 02 geo. And both of those need to be frozen. So I've got my Homer head frozen, no history, and call this head DL. I've got front reference, I've got the eyeballs are all good. Those should probably be frozen with their locked. Side hair, top hair, yeah. So everything's kind of okay. So now that it's all done, I can import this into my other scene with the body and scale it all up and down and get it to match, which I might do in another video. There's always more to do, always more to do. So anyway, there we go. That's my Homer for now. Gonna rush the hair, but there he is. Cool.